Alpha's business is based around exclusive access to some Australian IP that was developed over the last 15 years. There's essentially aluminium purification at its core, and what it allows our business to do is to manufacture a full suite of ultra pure aluminium chemicals, which includes aluminas and hydroxides, which have some really important applications across three really important sectors in the sort of decarb space. Lithium-ion batteries being one, semiconductors the second, and perhaps sort of most impactfully from a carbon reduction point of view, LED lighting is one of our really important and key markets.
The Tritium business model is we design, sell, manufacture and service DC fast chargers. So for electric vehicles, there's two types of chargers. For those of you who don't know, there's an AC charger, which is really a smart power point. You can plug your car into the wall, and that's an AC charger. That's a commoditized piece of technology. And then you've got fast DC chargers, and they start at 50 kilowatts. You get about 50 kilometres of range in about 10 minutes. With a 350, which we make, you get about 350 kilometres of range in about 10 minutes. So these are what we call fast and ultra-fast chargers. They're a non-commoditised technology. So for an AC charger, they can be made by all sorts of electronics manufacturers. They are made by ABB, Siemens, Schneider, and a number of new players in the market. But these fast chargers are a complex piece of power electronics. They're not yet commoditised, and that's why Australia can play in this game, because Australia does complex innovation and design engineering well. And when you're looking at something that starts at, say, 25,000, goes all the way up to over 110,000 for the equipment, and then you've got a 10-year operating life where they've got to be serviced after year 2, you're talking about proprietary parts which can only be bought from the OEM. So you've got 8 years of recurring revenue where all of the spare parts have to come from Tritium. This is an interesting business and something that I think Australia can actually play really well in.
Excellent. And thinking about the supply chain that you have and this theme of supply chain diversification and global onshoring, particularly in the US, how are you seeing that play out in your business?
Yeah, we certainly have seen it. About middle of last year, 2022, we really noticed a very high activity of inbound activity with respect to a whole sector within the US, which is the CMP sector, which is supplies polishing slurries to the semi sector, in particular the silicon carbide based semis, which for people who follow it, is closely related to power electronics and also linked very heavily to the EV thematic and probably chargers. So all of the suppliers to the silicon carbide substrates were looking to rapidly reshore or friendshore their abrasives for the silicon carbide polishing, which is the CMP sector, and we've been delighted to obviously receive that degree of inbound, almost certainly driven by CHIPS Act and the associated executive legislation that sits around the CHIPS Act. So we've definitely seen it at work, and we're keen to move quickly to capture that.
IRA and CHIPS Act as the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is part of the same suite, and that released the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Funding, which is $7.5 billion of funding to put fast chargers along American highways, electrify American highways. There'll be a charger every 50 miles along the highways, and we make fast chargers. So highly attractive to us to tap into the $7.5 billion. You have to be Buy America compliant and Build America compliant. And so that actually drove our decision. Luckily for us, at the time that act was passing through the Senate, we were making decisions about a new single global factory to try and reduce our costs and get to a good gross margin. And it was planned to be in either Eastern Europe or the UK, which is closer to our bigger market where we've made between 50 and 70% of our revenue. But as that legislation hit the Senate, we pivoted to the US. We set up the factory in Tennessee. It was completely and solely driven by that legislation. If that wasn't there, we would be in Europe.
I think, the opportunities are there. Australia, as sort of broader session has set up, we're in a unique position, aren't we, to move quickly and fill the gap. In our case, supplying critical minerals to the sector. We were lucky enough to be part of the US Critical Minerals delegation a few weeks ago, and that came through incredibly clearly, just how aggressive the US has been and is prepared to be with respect to sort of resetting its supply chains. So that's the real key opportunity. I think the challenge is time. Yeah, so just got to move quick, and Alpha is certainly trying to move as quickly as possible. I think that's the real challenge because there are plenty of competition out there, and there's plenty of fast moving actors. So yeah, we're keen to move fast.